Welcome to Basic Black. Some of you are joining us on our broadcast, and others of you are joining us on our digital platforms. I'm your host, Kristen Pope. Callie Crosley is off this evening. Tonight, Black Twitter, one of the most influential groups on social media, known for calling out issues on police-involved shootings, discrimination, and gender. Black Twitter has sparked debate, attention, and change for over a decade on topics impacting the Black community. Black Twitter is all about community created online, bringing together Black and brown people to discuss stories, laugh, and have critical conversations. But with Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter and the rise of hate speech on the platform, can Black Twitter survive? Will its influence be minimized or move to new and existing platforms? We have a great group of guests joining us this evening. Jeneé Osterheld, culture columnist at the Boston Globe, Dr. Meredith Clark, an associate professor and founding director of the Center of Communication, Media, Innovation, and Social Change at Northeastern University, Caroline Kautsire, educator and author of Some Kind of Girl, and Danielle Johnson, CEO and founder of Spark FM Online. Welcome to you all. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
So are you excited to talk about this conversation?
Oh, yes. Let's get into it.
Are we all on Black Twitter?
We are.
Yes.
We are.
We're all on Black Twitter. So I want to hear from you guys first. What's been your experience on Black Twitter, engaging in Black Twitter? Caroline, let's start with you.
Okay, so I didn't know what Black Twitter was at first until I kind of sifted through Twitter a little bit, and people were talking about how African Americans were sharing their experiences online. So being somebody from Malawi, Africa, I decided to share my diaspora experiences. And people loved it. I started getting followers because I was controlling my narrative. Other people were talking about social justice issues. Other people were just expressing themselves on Twitter, but kind of centering around Black issues. Mm-hmm. And I loved that, and I realized that I was a part of Black Twitter. It didn't have to be a membership that I had to subscribe for. I was just a part of it because I was talking about my Black lived experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks, Caroline. Jeneé, how about you?
Community. Black and existing online safely for a really long time at the beginning, back in the golden days of Twitter. I mean, I've met some of my closest, like you said, for over a decade. Some of my closest friends now in real life are people I met on Twitter when we were just being Black and existing on the platform, which ultimately became a community we call Black Twitter. Having a space where you can share collectively your hurt, your joy. You can fight to save your favorite show. You can call the Oscars out. You can make sure that our bodies, our lives are celebrated and while we're here versus only when we're dead.
Yeah.
You can fight the system. It's a beautiful place. It's also a scary place where we're attacked, where bots are targeting us. So it's a mix of things, but it is precious.
Jeneé, we're going to get back to the golden days of Twitter. We're coming back to that, so hold on to that. Meredith.
Also there during the golden days, had a great time. Black Twitter has been community for me for, as you said, over a decade, which I almost can't believe. But starting with my use in 2008, I saw that as a journalist, as a professional, you know, tweeting during the day, I was having a very different experience at night because Black Twitter was there. We were cracking jokes. We were talking about what it was like to work in white spaces and be the only Black person, the only Black face. And so connecting over those everyday experiences was affirming for me, especially being in graduate school. I could connect with other Black students. We could talk about what was going on with us, and we've maintained those relationships over the years.
Danielle?
I've always been a part of entertainment and media for as long as I can remember. And it was also a way for me to connect, and it was a big resource. It was a way to find information very, very quickly. You just press the hashtag and you're there. It also was obviously community. when you're watching your favorite shows, you're tweeting with the people that watching it too. When news comes out, everybody's talking about the same thing. So you're really kind of like a family, a community, a kind of little tribe on Twitter. And it's been, it's been that way ever since I started, just kind of getting information out there, receiving information, and feeling okay about the information that you are actually receiving.
Yeah. So the community is definitely a thread that just keeps coming up. And will we say that, we'll always find our community? We'll always find our community. And it's not even necessarily like our community, because the part of Twitter that has, we've loved has also been the discourse. That you may be talking with people who are not in your community, but you're able to facilitate that conversation. And so the piece about community, and Black Twitter surviving in what it means now. Do we believe Black Twitter can survive what's happening right now with Twitter?
Yeah.
As long as there's Black people around, there is a Black Instagram, Twitter, everything. Like Callie said, at first I didn't even know that Black Twitter was a thing. Yeah, I thought it was a separate app that you have to log into and do it, until I realized, I am Black Twitter. What I tweet goes into that ecosystem of people who are tweeting the same thing or just want to know other opinions or ideas. So that was always kind of, like a really great thing about Black Twitter.
America's a racist place.
Yes.
So it's like asking can Black Twitter survive is like Black people survive.
Exactly.
We're surviving as a collective. We're fighting, fighting for liberation, fighting to survive, but we're here, we're living, we're thriving, we're cultivating joy. So we deal with lesser Elon Musk every day.
Yes.
Every day.
So let's get into. Go ahead, Caroline.
And we have a tendency of kind of making spaces in spaces where we're not intended to be. We have a way of finding that out. If anything did happen to Twitter, I think Black people will find another space where another version of Black Twitter will happen. I know on Instagram I go to Addicted to Black, which is very similar to Black Twitter. Mastodon has come up too as one of the platforms that is kind of doing the same thing that Twitter has. So I think Black Twitter is something bigger than what it is. It's this force. It creates and it shapes culture, the way we communicate, how quickly we communicate. And I think it's an ongoing thing. Twitter is sort of like an unfinished thing. It will continually be evolving, and we will evolve with it.
And we've seen it evolve. So, Meredith, can you weigh in on that? You said history supports that. Talk to us about that.
So I'm often asked, what's after Black Twitter? People are always trying to look past what we're doing right now to see what comes next. And I like to actually go backwards and think about how Black people have used the technologies available to us through every single era to get our messages out, recognizing that we have to put out messages for ourselves. So you can look back to Freedom's Journal and its publication in 1827. You can look back to the Black press presenting a counter-narrative of the civil rights movement in this country, Black radio creating spaces for us to be heard over the airwaves with our talk shows and our music playing the folks that couldn't get played on mainstream radio, the Black blogosphere, which predated Black Twitter. A lot of our big personalities, right? We found them through the Black blogosphere. So whatever comes next, Mark Zuckerberg has sort of trademarked Meta to get us to think about that being the metaverse, but Mark Zuckerberg doesn't control the metaverse. So Black people, as the artist says, will be in the future, are in the future, will be there building as we have done in the past.
Okay, now Meredith, you weren't supposed to mic drop that early. You weren't supposed to mic drop that early, but you are 100% spot on, and I'm so glad you took us back to make it clear that we will always find our community. We will always mobilize community. We'll always create it no matter what space we're in. Okay, Jeneé, take us back to the glory days. What were the glory golden days of Twitter, and where are we now?
It's funny because for me, it's a weird thing that's happening because everybody's like, right now, Twitter's so scary, Elon Musk supervillain, which he is. But I first joined Twitter under a whole nother account in a different name because as a Black woman journalist, I dealt with a lot of racism and death threats and hate. And Twitter was like this beautiful outlet where I found other Black people and I could have, like Meredith was saying, cracking jokes, acting up, just living our best life online. Also, sneaker Twitter was there.
And if the people could see your sneakers.
And it was just a real fun place. I mean, I don't know if everybody remembers, but Scandal on Twitter.
Oh, yes.
so good.
Watching Scandal on Twitter
And the
was
way Lovey Ajay brought us
yes,
through.
it's like watching Scandal on Twitter before we watched Insecure on Twitter
That's right. Yeah.
was a move, and it was just a beautiful place because you could meet friends, you could get book recommendations, things that you thought no one, especially if you were I was a black person in the Midwest at the time, and if you thought you were the only one who liked a thing, or you didn't have a community at work, or maybe your community was really small, on Twitter your community became very big. It became huge, and then you could meet people that, hey, I'm in New York, let's link up, let's have lunch, let's have coffee, which is how I met some of the close friends I have today. Or I would be at a conference and someone would be like, aren't you? I'm like, oh yeah, it's me. And then eventually I had to come on Twitter as a result of my job as myself. And then that's when things got ugly, because all the things I was running from happened. It came true. Death threats on Twitter, attacked on Twitter, being trolled, the whole thing.
And this place that was so safe and so communal, and this, like, you almost described I was thinking of like the movie Crooklyn, or like a splash pad, like in the summer, like this is our playground, and now it's become like,
it was utopian,
right?
And then it became America. Like it was this kind of fantasy place that was very real, but it was also like, of course it was gonna eventually mimic America and evolve. And also part of the thing about Black Twitter is, like you said, it's always evolving. And just like hip hop became universal, Black Twitter is ours, but it also became very universal. You see it in the language. Like there's tweets I see sometimes, and they're not from us, but they're written in our language. They're written of our culture, and it's become a thing, very much like the earlier days of hip hop, where you're like, wait, who is this for? And is this language mine anymore? I run across people sometimes who will say things, and I'm like, that word's not for you.
You're not supposed to use that.
Well, and Carolyn, because I wanted to go to you about that, because you talked about controlling your own narrative and the fact that you didn't even know that you were participating. And you said something very interesting earlier about when you engaged this topic with your followers. What happened? Share that with us.
I asked my followers if Black Twitter is for everyone or if it's just for Black people. And the first reaction I got from people was, please don't go anywhere. We love to learn from you, from your life stories. And if you go to Black Twitter, then you're kind of blocking us out. And I said, you think I'm going somewhere. You think there's an app that exists or a hashtag that I'm going to use. I have been part of Black Twitter the entire time. You have been engaging in Black Twitter the entire time, right? And I share a lot of like uncomfortable topics, usually, like I said, because I'm diaspora, my experiences in Malawi and how my mindset changed in America, how I once thought America could do no wrong and how that has changed. So when people learn from an outsider, like just an African, because I'm not African American, I think a lot of my followers kind of process my information in a more understanding way than if, let's say, an African American were sharing the same stories, because I have that outside lens. So that's what happened with my followers. They immediately thought I was going somewhere, that they can't be a part of it, and what I was trying to make them aware of is they are a part of it already.
They've already been engaging in it.
Yes.
Elon Musk has bought Twitter. I heard the deep sigh. And, it was already in a strange place, right? Like we can't, I don't know that it's fair to say like Elon Musk broke Twitter, except for the fact that like it was already in a strange place. It was already moving to a strange place, but now it's like my algorithm looks a mess, y'all. Like once upon a time, you would go to Twitter for like the top news. Like I knew like if something was breaking, you went right to Twitter to find it out. It's not there anymore. The top breaking news, you have to search for like what is happening on, the big stage. What do you think about, how you have to navigate Twitter now, Danielle?
I think that free speech has convoluted a lot of people's brain cells. And I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I think that we're getting it very confused about what's free speech is. I think that people are taking it and running with it, and they feel like there should be no consequences because I'm allowed to say whatever I want because this is a free speech platform now. Everybody's back on. Everybody can say what they want. And I think that people don't understand that there are consequences to actions. There are consequences to speech. It might not come from the government, which free speech was made for the government. A private, platform is not under that jurisdiction. Neither is, your personal lifestyle, your personal ways of thinking about things. Like nowadays, when everybody's so sensitive, everybody's just very up in arms, very tense, there's a lot going on. And I think that people do need to be careful. Like, yes, you can say whatever you want to. It's an open platform. It's a free-for-all. But I do believe that people have to understand that, words mean things.
Absolutely.
They affect people.
Yeah.
They hurt people. And that influence is big too. And I think that's what one of the biggest thing about Elon is not that he mangled everything. I think it's his influence that allowed people to feel like they can do the same things that he does. Like they are allowed to be as ridiculous and as free as he wants to be. He's also a very, very, very rich man, and most of us are not anywhere near that. So our consequences are a lot deeper than what they would be for him. So I think that's the part that we need to really kind of tread lightly on.
Absolutely, Danielle. And the other thing is that these consequences are different for different folks, right?
Absolutely.
Because, even though there were people who probably needed to be blocked sooner, pre-Elon, you did feel like the blocking was a bit more objective.
Yeah.
And today it's like, I'm going to block you because I don't like what you said.
Yes.
I'm going to block you because you're against me or something like that. Meredith, talk to us about that.
Well, it's interesting because working with folks and talking to them about their experiences on Twitter, Black women in particular, I think about how Black women have created security practices to sort of promote their own safety and help their own experiences on the platform. So blocking and muting becomes part of that. It's one thing for the platform itself to remove someone, right? To take them off the platform, like the former president, to take off provocateurs and people who deny the Holocaust and what have you. But it's another for us to say, this is a way for me to engage in what is otherwise a very noisy space and still maintain my connections to the people that I want to be connected to, still be able to hear the information that I need, but maintain my own peace of mind as I'm using this. We were not designed as human beings to get all of the content that we are receiving day in and day out. And so we do have to use those tools and affordances to promote our own experiences.
Are you guys still as active on Twitter as you used to be?
No.
I am very active.
You're very active.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think it partly has to do with marketing my book. I am the product because I write memoirs. So I am the product too that I'm putting out there. So I try to stay relevant and connect with my audience. It can be thought-provoking things. It could be humor. And telling my story again as an African living in America. And that helps with like my book sales. So I stay active and connected with them.
So for you, it's still a tool.
It's still a tool.
It's a tool that works. Jeneé, you said no.
Well, yeah, but it has nothing to do with Elon. Like I slowed down on Twitter a couple of years ago. I'm still there, and I'm still I tweet my workout. I laugh at a couple of jokes. I might tune into a Twitter Spaces here and there, but Twitter was broken before.
Absolutely.
It was devolving before. People were getting attacked before. I am muting and blocking like Matumbo in these Twitter streets.
Block game is strong.
And my block game is strong.
Yes.
No. It's a lot to deal with, and the thing that we need to remember is, we always talk about those first 12 hours when Elon, acquired Twitter. He hadn't changed a thing. It was just, to your point, it was that just the influence of the name is what created those thousands and thousands and thousands of hate speech tweets. So it was just like the people that were already there, they were there. It wasn't new people. It wasn't new rules even. It was, nothing had been changed. And so you had to think that's what we were already dealing with. They just felt even more empowered, kind of like we were already dealing with these racists. And then Donald Trump gave them a megaphone and gave them permission to kind of vocalize it. So yeah, I've slowed down. I'm on Instagram. I am on the gram. TikTok is fun, but very busy for me. And so yeah, Facebook is just not a place where I'm only there because my family makes me.
That is the family hub. Yes.
That's the family hub. I'm there because my family makes me. That's where the family group chat is.
Yes. Yeah.
So where else are we, y'all? Like if you're not spending as much time, Jeneé, you said Instagram, but if you're not spending as much time on Twitter, where else are you?
Well, I'm going back to one of those spaces that I honestly wish more people on Twitter would adopt, and that is my journal. I'm going back to pen and paper because there are a lot of things that just aren't for Twitter. And not only my journal, but also the writing that I do professionally, getting in contact with people and sitting down and having more conversations face to face again. Just because those are creative spaces. And one of the big lessons from being on Twitter for me as an academic and as a person who makes money from the words that I write is that you can put those ideas and those words out there, and once you put something out on the internet, you no longer control it.
That's right.
And I have seen ideas and cultural works taken from Black people, from Black women in specific, and other folks run off with them. So as I encourage other people to do, am creating in spaces that I have more creative control over.
I love that, Meredith. I mean, take us back to pen and paper. All I heard what you said was peace. That's all I heard. I heard peace when you said that. Mental peace. I want to talk quickly about, you said Black women.
Yes.
And how the stats show that Black women are more endangered on Twitter than, our counterparts, white women. We are we in danger. Danielle, what do you think about that?
I mean, Black women are endangered, period. We protect Black women is really out there for a reason, because this world is literally loony, and you've got to be more careful now than before. Any of these social media sites they do all the same thing. So like when you go on there, you're fighting against so many things. You're fighting against white men, Black men, white women, and trolls, and then just people who want to say something and want to be relevant. Usually the most danger comes from people who are very not relevant. They usually have about 5 to 12 followers, and they're on some of the biggest threads, and they are literally just going at people. Like, there's so many things I've been called on Twitter, and I'm like, if I knew you, or if I knew that you were of any type of relevance, maybe it would affect me, but you're sitting behind a screen. I don't know who or where you are. So it is like Jeneé say, it's that block game is very strong. Muting people that even I follow, I might, but they just are a little, different. They're different. So, like that mute button, that block button is really hard. I don't really see a lot of things that are directly towards me or Black women, but I know that it's like an overlying cloud that is always out there. Like, we are the least protected, the least respected, all of those things. And it just kind of manifests itself on social media the same way it does in real life.
And unsanctioned platforms just make it a free-for-all.
Yes.
Jeneé, you got a word for people behind them.
Oh, thumb thugs.
Thumb thugs.
They don't have hands in the street. So they get in the thumb thugs. They get on there.
Thugs.
Yeah.
And I mean, Caroline, you sound like you have a good relationship with your Twitter friend, but have you experienced any of that?
Yes, I have experienced that, because I talk about a lot of uncomfortable things too. I ask a lot of questions about why people say certain things to Black people. They love that topic because you get a lot of mediocre questions that people ask about Africans, and I kind of put that out there so people know what I think as an African hearing maybe racist remarks about us. So a lot of uncomfortable things kind of come up, and I don't post for likability. I always say, if your activism is rooted in likability, then I don't want it. So for the most part, I remember there was a time where I did post for likability for a while because I was afraid. I was afraid of getting attacked, trolled. And then I said, is this the voice that I want to have? Giving people what I think they want to hear? Or can I use a voice to kind of voice out things that the underrepresented people need. And so I just made a conscious decision at some point. I'm strong in myself outside. I also write in my journals, and when I go on Twitter, I'm strong in who I am already. So if somebody tries to troll me, yes, I can block. It doesn't faze me. I know why I'm putting my work out there in the first place. So
that is good, and thank you for that, Caroline, because Twitter is a place, or had been a place, for us to have discourse, for us to have conversation. It didn't, and in order to do that, you got to do that with people who think differently than you. Right. And so we want to, continue this conversation a bit more, but what is one thing, I'll give you just 5 seconds, what's one thing you would say about Black Twitter?
Black Twitter contains allegiance. Just in the same way that there is no one Black community, we're talking about Black communities and everything that makes us spectacular. Black Twitter contains allegiance.
Okay. Danielle?
Black Twitter is fun.
Okay.
It's fun.
Jeneé?
Protect Black Twitter.
Hashtag.
Black Twitter is a creator and shapeshifter of culture, and it will energize you.
I love that.
I love these different perspectives. We need all of this. So, you all, this has been amazing. We are going to continue this conversation because we have some more nitty gritty to get into as we talk about Black Twitter, but this has been awesome so far. So this is the end of our broadcast, and this is the end of our show as you see it right now, but don't go anywhere. We are heading over to YouTube and our Facebook platform, so stay with us because this conversation is about to continue. I'm Kristen Pope, your host. We are on YouTube and Facebook with our post-show continuing our discussion about Black Twitter. And where we left off, we were talking about Black women, protecting Black women, and the fact that we get trolled more. There is more visceral that is directed towards us. Caroline, you said you've seen things. What about you, Meredith?
Oh, absolutely. I have been studying Black people's experiences on Twitter for over 10 years now and talking to Black women, and have heard absolutely horrific things. And one thing I want to point out is, as Danielle mentioned, it's not just white folks that we're talking about. It's not just non-Black people we're talking about. We're also talking about Black women also hurting other Black women on this platform.
Okay, talk to us about that, because we're not a monolith.
We are absolutely not a monolith. So when we forget to think about how other people's experiences shape how they show up, other perspectives that folks have, and when we're not respectful, when we're engaging in debate, when we get too low, that really gets hurtful, and then everyone else can see it. It goes back to some of our old politics. We try and keep family business inside, but Twitter has allowed that to explode in ways that I don't think we were really ready for.
Because when everybody has a platform, like a public platform, you literally get the gamut. You get from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum, and there's really no control. And sometimes it's a fight to see how low can you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
is that right?
Very
Okay,
much so.
Jeneé, talk to us about that.
Well, I think there's a dehumanizing that happens. And I think part of the reason why I slowed up on Twitter is because I deal with that in my work as a Black woman journalist. So I already have to deal with hundreds of emails calling me the lowest of the low, threatening me, voicemails, comments. I already was dealing with that before Twitter, after Twitter, all the time. So it's like I have to have places where I'm protecting my peace. And I've had other Black people on Twitter, say I'm not a real Black person. Like, you're not Black. Call me Rachel Dolezal. And it's like, bro, I'm Black.
Wow.
And it's like, well, your mom's white, so I am a Black woman.
Yes.
My mom is white. I've never, ever not said she wasn't a white woman. Rest in peace, Mom. But I'm a Black woman. My lived experience is a Black one.
Yes.
And I've been literally like attacked multiple times. Or you're a light-skinned Black woman, so you can't talk about this. And it's like, colorism is real, period. Protect Black women, double protect dark-skinned black women, protect trans women that are black.
Come on.
But also, don't tell me that because I am looking like this that I can't talk about black life or protect black life or use my platform the way I've been using it for always. This is my job. This is what I do. And it's also my life. It's not just my job. It's my life. And people come for you. It's sad because things you say to each other, to your point, things you say to each other in-house or to your friends at brunch have become these outside conversations that take on a different tone when everyone's invited to the party.
Yes.
Because one person says something to you and maybe they don't mean it as mean as they say it, but then 30 other people see it
And perceive it a different
and perceive it a different way, and then it takes on a whole nother conversation. It's like, Lovey says she doesn't like Tevin Campbell.
Baby.
And all of us are like, how could you not like Tevin Campbell? And gasp. And I mean, I think it was a fair, what you mean you don't like Tevin?
But it's like,
But then-
can she not like
but
Tevin?
that
But
part-
it's about
But
like,
then it went from what I thought was reasonable of us being like, girl, what? To insane, to an insane level of dragging hate.
Diaspora wars.
Hate, diaspora war. I mean, it got so disgusting and nasty, and I feel like that it was
our barbecue conversation that made it to the main stage.
Yeah, and there's no boundaries. It just literally is how mean can I be? And a part of it is, I think, a reflection of reality TV and housewives culture and bad girls club culture, where it's like I just have to say the nastiest, meanest thing.
And Meredith, you've studied this.
Yes.
So what do you say to what Jeneé is saying?
I mean, she's spot on. All of these things are taking place. Some of the abuse is, the calls coming from inside the house. One of the things that really stands out to me about this phenomenon, I love the way that you put this, Jeneé, this is basically the afterlife of what we're seeing with reality TV. I think that so many of us in the way that we show up have become used to performing because on social media platforms, we're incentivized to do so. There might be a deal out of this. There might be an opportunity to promote something. I might somehow catch some fame from this. And it has really incentivized people to, in some cases, the worst kind of behavior.
It's that old saying, all publicity is good publicity, and people, and that's not true. Like negative publicity usually gets a lot more likes, retweets. It goes viral quicker, and that sucks, because the worse you are, the higher you climb to fame in some of these cases, and that's what's a mess.
And so, Meredith, to this point though, it sounds like we've definitely changed our behavior.
Oh, absolutely.
Like in performance culture, because some people are, they're not like that. They're not naturally that way. But because of, like you said, the incentivizing, we've changed our behavior to kind of like take part in this.
Yes, I think Caroline has a couple of observations about it.
Yeah, no, and I think this conflict-based kind of Twitter is what Elon Musk has kind of created, right? Because
Appeal to.
Yes, exactly. And I know that he's done several things that have kind of created an anti-Black atmosphere. I think he had found these T-shirts, hashtag Stay Woke, right?
Yeah.
And I think he was making fun of them and of the Black Lives Matter movement. So if you have the head of Twitter behaving in this way, other people would just follow suit. And to speak to the idea of kind of like in the Black community, kind of having people disagree, the Martin Luther King Jr. Embrace statue that is out there, a lot of people have been fighting that amongst the Black community too. And it's very interesting because other people see it as art, other people don't see it as art, other people are focusing on the message that it's sending out, other people, it's just very interesting. But this conflict-based kind of atmosphere seems to be very prevalent on Twitter right now, and it's something that could be problematic for Black Twitter.
Well, I think when people become products, and that was what you were, when people become products, you lose a little bit of your humanity. So it's like when everybody's branding and selling and grabbing, then you lose a little bit of your humanity. And, I never want to, obviously these things exist in Black Twitter where we're legions. There's many, Black Twitter is made up of many communities, but I don't want to get too much too far down the rabbit hole of we also do this to each other, because yes, we do, but we're also mimicking white supremacy and the way it's washed all over us. And that's still the biggest problem on Twitter is the white supremacy, is the anti-blackness, is the anti-Semitism and anti-trans and queer behavior that happens, and anti-women across the board. And it's become, you know, it existed before Elon. He's definitely appealed to it, empowered it, and set it on fire even. But it existed before, and it was a problem before, and it was scary before.
And we've noticed that, you know, every time there is someone with big influence to hit the main stage, it just emboldens other people. You know, it does not necessarily create it. It just says you have permission to do this publicly. Meredith, you're working on something about dealing with archives. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yes. So this is a project that, you know, it was supposed to be in development and rolled out later this year, but time and circumstance do not wait. I work with a group of archivists, scholars, and activists on a project called Archiving the Black Web. And what we are trying to do is go back and preserve those spaces that we have created. So I mentioned the Black blogosphere earlier in our conversation. You know, if you were to go online right now and look up some of those blogs, look up Jack and Jill Politics, look up Afrobella, some of them are still there, but many of them are not. And it's because platforms changed, because web hosts changed, because people got locked out of an account. And our history, our digital histories are disappearing. They're ephemeral. So in the same way, part of my project with the Black Twitter Archive is to persuade people to make sure that they think about their data as valuable. Yeah, we've been tweeting about what I'm eating for lunch and this trip that I'm taking. I've got tons of customer service complaints in my archive. But all of that is important. And we can find ways to tell our own stories by preserving that data, curating it for ourselves, providing our own narration, and then creating something that we have to show for the time that we spent in these spaces together building community. So that's the project, and I'm looking very forward to rolling it out as the year goes on.
I'm so grateful you're doing that.
Yes, awesome. I absolutely love that. I'm thinking, you know, right now at the MFA, there's the Life magazine exhibit. And, you know, it's taking us from like the 50s on like how you told a story and how a journalist covered it. But that's evolved for us. Absolutely. You know, for journalists, that's evolved. Like once upon a time, the digital was not where we are, but you must be. If you're not in the digital space, did you tell your story? Did it actually happen? And so being able to preserve all of these things and kind of just a narrative in people's like live journals is so important.
Well, I think what Meredith is doing is, I mean, I know you all remember we all took a collective gasp and a heartache when we thought we were going to lose the Ebony Jet archives. And growing up, you probably took the Ebony Jet in the bathroom, on the kitchen table, on the living room table for granted. But when we thought we were going to lose it, we were like, oh no, protect it. And I think that's very much these, like when you said Afrobella, I got really warm. I was like, oh, Afrobella.
I did too, yes.
And then I thought about this blog I had with two of my friends in California, Nerdlike, and I'm just like, yo, I would be very sad if I never could see those things again.
Danielle, you can speak to that because of what happened with your social media accounts. I'm sorry, girl. Right?
10 years building up, you know, these social media platforms and curating content, making sure that everything was, you know, like I looked good and, you know, my stories, running a business, all of those things. And when it shut, when they got disabled, it started on Facebook and then it went straight over to my Instagram, and it took like 3 of my other accounts, things that I have been building up for years. And not only was it devastating, but it also made me realize is that I should have probably saved something. You know, like I shouldn't have relied so much on these social media platforms or these digital, you know, platforms to tell my story, to keep it in a safe space, because now they're all gone. And now I still have my pictures and stuff like that, but there are some things that I can't get back. It made me realize that I did need to make more connections with real life people. I did need to build up my email list, make sure that my website is always updated and, you know, the same reflection that I'm doing on social media that I'm giving to myself too. So it was a big learning lesson of just making sure that I have my resources in a place, in a contact book a Rolodex, if you might. But you know, like those kind of things, when social media does kind of just disappear from you, what are you going to have left? Where are all your memories? Where is your history? Where's your story?
Where's your story? Caroline, I want to end with you because you are spending time curating your story on social media. And so to what Danielle says, what are your thoughts about that?
It's definitely important because I have to tell you this actually. My first book, I had a website, I had a blog called Athena Tales. And I used to share all my experiences that I had in Africa on there. And that's how I started writing my first book. As for the current book I'm working on right now, which is a book of poetry, I share small little clips of my poetry just to see what people are reacting to, what's working, what's not working. And yes, my third book just by testing this stuff on Twitter, on Facebook, you name it. So this is something I think preserving a lot of what I've been writing on there is going to be very important for other books that I'll write moving forward. So it's worked for me. It's worked.
So we can conclude that Black Twitter is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Black Twitter is not going anywhere. It's still ours. And even if it's not on Twitter, we're going to take it and create it somewhere else.
We sure are.
Fantastic. Ladies, this has been a wonderful conversation. You all are gorgeous, brilliant, joyful, wonderful, and thank you so much for being here to talk about this and to enlighten us on Black Twitter. Thank you for being with us. That is the end of our show. Take care.